Today I want to talk a little bit about Solutions Network, Inc. and an ethical moral dilemma that happened between two workers. So a little bit about Solutions Network. They started up as a company, and within about 5 years they became a publicly owned company. And before they became a publicly owned company, they developed relationships with IBM, Apple, and Dell, and other big companies, which helped them to develop loyal customers because they had those relationships with these other companies. One of the companies that they did do business with is DSS, which also is known as Data System Solutions. And that's kind of where this problem came in, is with their relationship with DSS. So what happened, as you can see in this right here, is their earnings, their revenues, and then their net income over 5 years. And in 2018, they made a deal with DSS. So on December 28th, so it was the end of the year, they had all of their earnings in for that year, and they made an agreement where Solutions Network, Inc. would sell DSS their internet infrastructure software for internal use, and then in return, DSS agreed to ship Solutions Network software a month later that they would be able to use internally. And so they had a lot of transactions over the past 5 years, and DSS didn't feel like it was a great transaction. However, since they knew that Solutions Network was one of the fastest growing companies, they didn't want to burn that bridge, and so they agreed to this transaction. And in this deal, the greatest thing for Network Solution is that it allowed them to meet their goals for the current year. So it brought in $15 million in revenue, and it increased their net income by $1 million. So without it, as you can see, they weren't projected to meet their goals, and they were bringing in a lower revenue and lower net income than the previous year. And so they had this agreement. It happened on December 28th, and Paul Henley, the CFO, wanted to record that transaction for the current year, and Sarah Young did not feel like that was ethically correct. So, because Sarah didn't feel like this was right, she talked with her friend that is also a CPA and told her a little bit about the situation and how Paul, when she had addressed him, he got upset and said that this is what it was going to be, and if she didn't like it, she could leave. And so something that Shannon and her had come up with is addressing Paul and talking about how, as CPAs, which Paul also was, and Sarah, that it was their ethical duty to do what was right, even if they lost the bonuses and all the other incentives that they could have gotten from meeting those goals that they had. If that didn't work, she could also just talk with Paul one-on-one and kind of better understand where he's coming from and what he wants from this instead, and then she could share her thoughts and feelings on it as well. If that doesn't work, she should go to the CEO and address it with him and talk about the problem that is at hand, and talk about how cutting corners now is not going to help in the future. And she feels like she's actually seen this before. Something similar happened in the previous year, and she doesn't want it to become something bigger. And so if they can address the issue where it's at right now, then they can prevent it from getting worse and happening in the future. And if after talking with the CFO and the CEO, Sarah still feels like it's not being resolved and she's worried about it, another thing she could do, if she feels that working there is not meeting her ethical standards, then she could look for work somewhere else. Obviously that wouldn't be the easiest thing, but it would help with her maintain her standards. And that is it.